All right, folks, it is David. I'm just now here leaving the Grand, and I saw 28 years later, I kid you not, this movie, this is like the second or third or fourth or fifth movie now that I've seen where I'm seeing the second movie or sequel without having seen the first one. Yeah, that's right. I still haven't seen 28 Days Later. Which, an interesting thing about this, and I thought about this going in, you can tell from the trailer that it is such an after-the-fact story on its own. Again, you can see that from the trailer if you've seen the trailer. That this is almost like a standalone kind of a thing in its own little universe. And you don't actually have to have seen the first movie apart from the basic setup, because it's literally like it's 28 years later. That's a long time. So we're not exactly picking up right where we left off. Again, I haven't seen the first movie, but I'm just saying. But yeah, this was really something. It's a visual feast of a movie, and the story is well, just let me get into it a little bit here. And actually, as usual, I'm going to wait till I get home and actually do my audio recording for this. But I first want to just, as I'm driving here, get it straight as to why I even went to see this movie. It is almost like an epic. As much as you can have a big movie these days that's almost like I won't say a cultural touchstone or anything, but a big movie that a lot of people are looking forward to. Because I know 28 Days Later, you hear people say it all the time, it's like the biggest, best, most memorable zombie flick ever. Even though people say, well, this rage virus thing, it's not like so much zombies as it is infected people, because you don't usually see zombies running and killing quite like the monstrosities in the 28 days, 28 weeks, 28 years later story, with all their grunting and guttural spitting and sputtering and biting the neck. And it's an interesting thing that that this movie's coming out now, and I'll try and get into that more when I get home, as far as, you know, why now, what's the point, were they just wanting to make another movie or what. But as always, I'll wait till I get home to really get into it. So till then. Alright, folks, it is now 11:18 p.m. on the 20th. I am home, and we're going to carry on with the review now of 28 Years Later. Again, I saw what was the showtime at the Grand, Hattiesburg, Mississippi? Must have been 5:50 p.m. Got in there and had a fairly good theater going experience. I ended up sitting right next to people when there's room, but you still want to go with the seating that you've been assigned to, because years back they started assigning the seating. It is what it is. I unfortunately missed about 2 minutes of the movie, and I'm going to get into how that's particularly aggravating to me because of what part of the movie it was, but we'll get into that in a second. I thought I could stand it, but no, too much soda. So here we go. Again, I haven't seen 28 Days Later. I definitely have to see that. I don't know if I'll bother with 28 Weeks Later or not, but especially after seeing this, I want to go back. I want to go back and see the original. So just to see what it was all about, because I know it was a big deal at the time, and I just didn't get around to watching it. I wasn't big into horror way back then, and I'm still not. But it's one of those movies that I think you just have to see. So I got to get around to seeing it sometime. So let's get going with this. Okay, our lead, and I'm going to go ahead and say it's Spike, played by young Alfie Williams, a young child actor. I'm not sure how old he is, but we're going to go with 12, because that's how old he is in the movie. I'm not, you know what, I'll go ahead and click on 14 years old. There he is. I'm looking at IMDb right now. And this little kid Not that 14 is real little, but this kid, his acting was so, like, well done, I thought, and emotive, and his facial expression reminded me of Simon Pegg throughout the whole movie. Something about his nose, his eyes, his brow, whatever. That's who he reminded me of. Anyway, he did a really good job, and I consider him the lead because he's the one who's in the entire movie. We lose Aaron Taylor Johnson about halfway through, and I thought he was going to play a much bigger or more prominent role than he did as the father of Spike. He's Jamie, and you remember in the trailer, you can see, you hear that, I think it's a Rudyard Kipling poem, The Boots, the war poem that's sounding and thundering so dramatically in the trailer for 28 years later that really got everybody's blood pumping. That is in this movie, but not in some epic, death-defying way. It's in a very thoughtful and beautiful and just... Well, let me get into that. The whole start of the movie is a very brief recounting of what in the world's going on, and right off the bat, it's just something on the screen, some little bit of text, not even narrated by a voice. Just something you read on the screen that says the whole of the UK was overtaken by the rage virus. And I thought that, I didn't realize that. I knew it was in London from what I have seen, the little trailer of 28 days later. And yes, I remember seeing that trailer way back when, and I should have saw that movie long ago. But I thought that it was the whole world that ended up getting infected because I haven't seen the movie. But no, it's just mainland Britain. It's the UK, the British Isles basically, that have been overtaken, and the rest of the world successfully quarantined it. And it's like, how horrible, you know? You're basically a byword now. You're not even it's like the UK is gone. There's little island, little places right off the mainland, like for instance the island that Jamie and Spike live on, connected to the mainland by it's basically one road that is it's like a little inlet deal that when the tide rolls in, this little walking path, and that's really all it is, an elevated dirt road looking thing, a path maybe a mile long, not even that, connecting their island that is secluded from the infected, the zombie hordes that would kill them all and turn them into zombies, and the mainland. And when the tide rolls in, it's too much for the infected to handle, and you can't swim it if you're not infected because the surge or whatever will take you out to sea and you'll drown in the ocean. Jamie tells us that, and as he's narrating these little things, as he's teaching his son Spike, and this speaks to his character Jamie, because even though he's not a perfect character in this movie, as you see, and again I'm going to put spoiler alerts big time at the start of this video, because I know this is still a new movie that I've managed to see in the opening weekend, and that's a rare thing for me. But yeah. You get the deep impression that Jamie at least loves his son Spike. He wants to make sure his son is ready for the world and able to protect himself and do what he needs to do to survive in this dangerous world that they've inherited from the zombie apocalypse that apparently was only the end of their home, Britain, England, you know, and not the rest of the world. That's an interesting thing to me. I just, at least... It's interesting because, for instance, in another franchise, which is more monster-verse sort of things, A Quiet Place, those monsters overtook the whole world in an invasion, and yet you wonder, how do you come back from that, from those monsters that are basically like the Tremors and Tremors, except they're above ground. If you make a sound, they come for you. Well, here in this story, only the UK islands have been overtaken, and so it's like the rest of the world just kind of watches from a distance. Everybody just, it's kind of peculiar, but it speaks to the way Danny Boyle has told this story. The director, I think, the producer also, let me see, I want to get this right. I know he directed this, Danny Boyle. And no, Cillian Murphy is not in this, spoiler alert. I want to get this right. I'm not seeing his name. Okay, director Danny Boyle. Okay, that's good enough. This movie, more so than I even realized, is, I imagine the first film, because he made the first film also 28 days later, is similar to this. Again, I'm sure that's what I'm going to find out when I watch it. But this movie isn't really an epic zombie horde, shoot 'em up, epic adventure thing. No, this movie, 28 years later, is a much more quiet, not totally quiet, obviously. It's got some scary bits in it. It's about zombie monsters, but it's about how people live with it and how they deal, how they interact with each other, and ultimately how they deal with life and death and love. It's a poetic thing that Danny Boyle has made here. And that poem that you hear about the boots, it's saying just like that, and it builds to a crescendo. It's like there's no discharge in the war. It was such a great thing in the trailer. That is in this as Jamie is taking Spike to the mainland. His mother, I'm going to get her name wrong. Isla. I can't believe I'm getting this wrong. Isla, played by Jodie Comer. As soon as I saw her, I said, hey, look who it is. I forgot she was going to be in this. She was good in this for what her character was, but I'm going to get to what kind of disturbed me about this particular story. I can't believe I'm getting this name wrong. Liza. I want to say Liza. That's Isla. Anyways, it's his mother. It's Spike's mother. And Jamie's wife. That's Isla, whatever. Played by Jodie Comer. Right off the bat, you realize she's ill. She's in a bad way. And it's serious. It's like she's not getting better. It's like she's getting worse. Spike loves his mother dearly. And it's like her mind is going in and out. And you're wondering what's going on with that. Jamie doesn't exactly dismiss it altogether. He has this attitude like she'll get better or maybe she won't. It's like he's accepted whatever's going on with her, but they don't really know what's going on with her. But she's got some kind of an illness, and it's affecting her mind. She's out of her wits a little bit. Like she realizes where they're going, and she starts calling Jamie a cunt, and it's like she's wanting to really hurt him, because the idea of him taking their 12-year-old son to the mainland where he'll be in grave danger is like, he's just a baby. You can't take a baby to the mainland, you cunt. It was pretty intense. It's like, man, she is so mad at him. It was like a maternal thing, like she's defending her child from this person who she thinks is going to hurt him or get him killed, even if it is her husband, the father. You know, it was a neat little moment of, there is no agreement here about him taking Spike to the mainland, and this whole thing is very, very neat. What Jamie's trying to do, because it's almost like a rite of passage that everybody has to go on at some point. Sometimes the boys, I guess girls too, for all I know, are a little bit older. They're 14 or 15. One lady who's like, I forget, her name is Jenny, and she was like an older sage-like woman in the village who helps guard the gate and keep things orderly and safe. But Jamie insists that he's ready, he'll be fine. And so in the end he is. They go across the basically the tide road, the little road that connects their island, their secluded island, where they can be safe from the infected and the mainland. And that's when the poem plays. And it is beautiful. The cinematography and the imagery that you see flash across the screen from time to time is good looking. This is a good looking movie. Danny Boyle plays this. Please don't get me wrong, but I'm just going to say this, try and express this observation as well as I can. This is a British style or English style. No, I guess we'll go with British. I don't know which I should say style tale. Like an American probably wouldn't ever do this particular kind of movie in this particular kind of style, because it has this, maybe I should just say darker bent to it that just, I guess that's just the best way I can say it. It's like it's not all rainbows and unicorns and lollipops at the end of the golden leprechaun, whatever kind of a thing, as that poem is playing, and it's about the war. It's about the Great War, I believe. And the images that you see on the screen flashing of these older men training the younger men, like boys, like still boys. That's how young these kids are, with a bow and arrow, and they're getting good at it, and they're instructing them. And you see these flashes of, it's from a film, I'm sure, but it's like the ancient English druids, whatever, using bow and arrows from the long ago when they had to do that. And the arrows rain down on the enemy. And in this story, it's intermixed with images that are really creepy of the glowing-eyed, infected zombies in the night. How they attacked a deer, how the alpha tore its head off and planted its head up on the tree limb and stuff like that. And there's like a very base realism and, how should I say it, primal element to it, as Boyle connects the need to understand how to survive and do war if you're gonna live, and having images of those of their own people who did that in the past and the long ago, and then connected to other images also of the war. I think maybe World War II as well, but the World War I, these old black and white images of marching and schoolboys marching next to the soldiers who were marching by in a parade so that they could be like them and start to mimic them early. It was beautiful. It was really well done. And again, that poem is only played at that part of the movie. I thought it was going to be stretched throughout the movie the way it was stretched throughout the trailer the way it was, but no. It just serves as like this foundational thing. Jamie is teaching his son by going with him on a little journey a few miles into the mainland, and in the course just of this, they encounter 3 of these crawler zombies who, for whatever reason, they all appeared to be fat and Asian. I'm serious. The facial look of them, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but you correct me if you see the movie, you're like, they don't look Asian in their face. They did to me. And for whatever reason, these borderline mutant whatever zombies, they crawl and they eat bugs and earthworms, and it's like they're very low, slow moving, and an interesting little change in things. I'm sure there were none of those in the original movie. I don't know about 28 weeks later, but it was the first kill where Jamie is telling Spike, okay, you got to hit him right here with your arrow, and he points to like the jugular vein or something. And while Spike is taking aim and looking at this thing, one is sneaking up behind Jamie, who takes out the other 2. And then Spike says, Dad, like he didn't want him to kill this other one because this other one was very small and it wasn't crawling around. It was on its feet and able to be a little bit quicker, but it was still a child, like a juvenile. I mean, a kid crawler zombie. And I was like, how does this work? What is this world, Mr. Danny Boyle, Danny Boy? What is going on here? But it was well done. The thing is, it was really well done. And I didn't even mention the beginning of the movie with this, this whack job of a parish priest, whatever, Catholic priest, I don't know what that was, saying, "Oh, this is a great day of judgment, my child. It's a glorious day. It's a day of judgment." And his little son is scared to death because the zombies, the infected, have just overtaken his house. It's what you see in the trailer of kids watching Teletubbies. I kid you not. They burst through the door, and you see in the reflection of the TV some of the young kids like being torn up, not head on. I don't know if they got away with that, but this little kid, Jimmy, his mom's screaming, "Run, run!" and each time he sees an adult and wants to ask for help, they're immediately attacked by some infected person, and when they bite him a little bit and tackle him, then they're vomiting up the blood and becoming the infected, and it's just horrendous. But I'm pretty sure these little kids were not converted into infected. You get the impression from that horrific opening of the movie that these kids were just brutalized and just ripped up. That's how the movie starts. I kid you not. He runs for help, and his dad is a priest or something, and I think he tells him to run, or he just goes ahead and puts him down into this little safe space, I guess, in the flooring of the place where he wouldn't be able to be gotten at by the infected hordes that are overtaken, and his welcoming father, as he's basically letting himself be taken over and made an infected by these who just ran in, and he's an infected, and he's staggering out, and they're all twitching and screaming and writhing, and some of them, the acting is pretty good, but even it's like some of the infected looked like they were kind of confused, like, this fellow looks like he wanted us to convert him. It was I don't know if there's ever been another scene like that in this stuff. It's like this guy totally was all in. He wanted to be made a zombie. He's such a psycho. I mean, what was going through his head? I don't know. And you never find out. But you do see Jimmy again in the end, and this is kind of curious to me, but we'll get there. Okay, so back to where we were talking about this rite of passage mission that Jamie is going on with Spike. Jamie is in kind of a bad way and realizes he may have messed up, because when they see that deer's head up on the tree limb, he realizes an alpha did that. And the alphas are these infected who have gotten kind of big and kind of strong, and they obviously can bark orders like the other infected respond to what the alpha wants them to do. And it's the creepiest thing to see this guy's silhouette, this alpha, next to this tree. That was a beautiful cinematography. I mean, it looked good. But what didn't look good, and this is a legitimate gripe against the movie, was the nakedness you see in this film. It's like, come on, folks, you didn't have to have this kind of nakedness or this level of nakedness, and especially not from the alpha. I mean, because seriously, two of these guys, and you see two different alphas in this movie, you see them, and basically they're nude, and I haven't seen this much dangly bits since thinking The Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan. I kid you not. There's a lot of people, naked infected people, running around in this movie, and it got to be a kind of fatiguing to the brain after a while. It's like, man, this is some heavy duty zombie whatnot here. Anyways, back to where we were. Jamie has got to get Spike back to their island refuge before the tide comes in. But then when they're overtaken by zombies, when they realize they're being followed, when they're spotted out in the field, and he spots the alpha just looking at him from like half a mile away. It was so eerie, that scene. They end up running away, and Spike is shooting arrows but not hitting the head or the heart the way they'd been trained to by their bow and arrow instructors, including Jamie. And Jamie's like, head and heart, Spike, head and heart, focus. But Spike was too nervous with the real life death situation running at him in all of its horrendous contortions and gruntings and zombie horror. So Spike thinks he messed up, but then Jamie, when they get to this house where they hold up for the night, and they almost didn't make it, they had to get into the loft of the place with the alpha and the zombies chasing them. They get into the loft of this place, and it's pretty harrowing, because it's like Jamie's doing these headshots with a bow and arrow, but they're still coming. They managed to finally get into the lofted roof of this house, and the zombies can't get to them, so the zombies finally leave, the infected, that is, and they have a nice little heart-to-heart about, "You did good, son." No, I messed up. I got too nervous. And Jamie's reassuring him, "No, I've seen worse. You did real good, son." And they have such a neat relationship at this part of the movie. But that changes, and we'll get to that. And something interesting about this film, the way the story, the universe building is very consistent with what would happen, in as much as with so little human activity on the island, the animals are basically taken over. They see some deer herding, and it looks like the antelope in the in the African plains doing their thousands of mile long march. There are just so many deer, and it's like, what I thought this was going to be about was maybe Jamie taking him on like a hunting trip, where maybe they would bag some animal instead of just the sheep that they have on their little island refuge. But no, they're actually searching for whatever they can in these houses and abandoned stuff. He says these things have been raided for years and years, because it's 28 years later. But he says it's always worth to look for something. And I kid you not, Spike finds some forks and stuff. It's like, "Hey, what are these? What of these?" And Jamie's like, "Nah, we got plenty of those." But Jamie's got a frisbee in his hand, I kid you not. And he's like, "Now here's a find." And Spike's like, "What is that?" You don't know what a frisbee is? Oh, you'll love it. So that's basically their spoil from their little raiding party into the mainland, so that Spike can say that he has been to the mainland and his first kill and all that. But with that herd vibrating the house, because it came in the night, apparently, or did it? There are two different things in this movie where it's like, you don't know if it was a dream or not. Was it the herd stampeding outside that caused that vibration, that caused the chimney to give in on this house so that it was collapsing around him? Jamie woke up Spike in the middle of the night, says, we gotta go. He rushes him outside, and they have to immediately start back to their island right then, even though the tide would still be in for a little while longer. But he says, we've got no choice. All this racket, all this noise is going to call to them, the infected. They're about to be here at any second. So basically what happens is they end up in a run for their life again, and Jamie's yelling at Spike, come on, son, get up, you've got to get up. And he's running as fast as he can, and they get all the way back to their the little strip of road that stretches from the island to the mainland. And this is one of the most epic and beautiful scenes as far as cinematography in the whole movie. Although the cosmic scene of the nebula clouds, it looked like that was a bit much. But the way the sky looked and the way the path was lit, it's not really dawn yet, but it's like it's approaching, and there are bright stars. It looked epic as they ran for their lives, saying, we're almost made it, son. But the Alpha is on them, and the Alpha is a really big, fast-running monster. He's running them down, and the way the music combined in this scene, it was epic. It was a great little scene. And Jamie, Aaron Taylor Johnson, is screaming for the gate once they finally get that far. Open up, open up. we're not infected. And the guys inside shoot arrows and spears, I kid you not, to save them from the Alpha, who, when he finally gets that great big spear through him, he goes down like a sack of potatoes. But Jamie's still not inside where it's safe yet. He's at the gate, and there's this lady, Jenny, the old lady I mentioned, who helps guard the gate and keep the place running. She's like, wait, and you're thinking, what in the world, lady? You got to let him in. But no, she did exactly right. You wouldn't let anybody you might thought was infected in. It just can't happen. And that's all that was. But Jamie's freaking out, and Spike's like, he's looking through so she can see his eyes, and Spike's saying, he's clean, don't you see? He's clean. We're clean, let us in. And because he is still in fight or flight mode from being charged big time by that Alpha. But the Alpha lays dead in the water. You don't see that one again. But there is another Alpha later. And they go inside, and then they're safe back home. And there's this big party where Jamie is getting drunk as a skunk, and it looks like an old Gaelic thing where it's like they're all got the mead flowing, and it's a victory party for like a welcome home from a hunting campaign or some war or something like that. That's the kind of feel that you get, and those are the kind of old English drawings and imagery that are flashing periodically amidst all this, connecting this story to stories of the past. And it's such a neat thing. It is such a neat thing that that they did in this movie to make that way. Jamie is gassing up Spike big time, saying, he hit every shot. He's a giant killer. He's an effing giant killer. He's such a and Spike is all modest and trying to just like no, he can't stand it. Spike ends up kind of sneaking out of his own welcome home hero party, and he vomits. He just can't stand it anymore, whether because he drank a little bit or maybe some of the women, some young woman I think wanted to reward him or some such thing. It was just too much for his young senses. He got out of there and he puked. And you're really sympathizing with him. It's like, man, that's too much. He immediately goes and he talks with somebody. There's this man who's been looking after his mother while they're gone. He's downstairs. He's talking to this elderly friend of the family, like this sage, one of his teachers, I'm sure. And just the kind of conversation that they have make you realize it's a warm environment there in their refuge island that doesn't exist anywhere for hundreds of miles anywhere else in the UK that they know of. And it's just something to think about, how this kid, he starts out, he's 12 years old, but then it seems like he ages 2 or 3 years just because of how well he's adjusting to all that he's learning and experiencing. Again, this is Spike, played by Alfie Williams. And he follows his dad, unfortunately, on this occasion where Jamie is getting all beard up. And there's a woman who Jamie basically has some of the sexual relations with. And Spike had followed him just long enough to see that that's what was about to be going down, and then he's all upset about it and distraught, and that's when he leaves, and he's talking to the old man and not telling him what he just saw, but just that you go down, I'll take care of Mom. And so he's talking with Jodie Comer. I can't pronounce her name. Isla. I'll just say Isla and just leave out the S. It's not Isla. It must be Isla. And so, again, she's in and out of her mind with, you're thinking, I wonder if she just has dementia, this character in this movie. But no, it's something else, as you find out. But this is such a pivotal part of the movie where Jamie comes in, staggers in, says, oh, what a killjoy you are, when Spike just kind of leaves because Jamie plops himself right in the bed, and Isla is there, and Spike had slept on the other side of the bed just to be near his mom through the night, And he says, "Oh, what a killjoy you are! Like you won't talk to me or whatever." And Spike leaves. Jamie follows him, and then Spike confronts him about, "Listen, if Mom, do you care if Mom dies?" Because he's getting into his mind about what are you doing, Dad? Like, I saw what you were doing. And Jamie's like, "What kind of a question is that? Of course I don't want your mother to die." And he asks him straight up, "If she does die, are you going to be with whatever the young woman's name is that I don't know what her name, I forgot what her name was in the movie. Her name is mentioned like twice. Basically, she's the one who Jamie is having an affair with. And he basically shuts his son down, saying, "You watch your effing mouth, don't talk about," and then Spike basically presses him on it, and Jamie slaps the fire out of his kid. And in another scene, very close to that, it's like Spike's telling him, like, leave us alone. And he pulls a knife on him, and Jamie does this thing. This was a great scene. He snatches the knife out of the kid's hand, out of his son's hand, Spike. He closes it instantly, like a reflex, and he's straining it in his hand. Like, he is so angry. He is in like a fury over what's going on and the way his son is treating him, because of the way he's treating his son and his invalid wife. And Spike is this is basically like when you hear these days, like a father's like a no good day, like you're cheating on my mom, you're cheating on the whole family, what are you doing? And it hurts so much, you know. Jamie closes the knife, he's got it in his hand, he's just straining it, and his hand is like staggering as he's handing it back to Spike, because it's his knife. And Spike takes it out of his hand, and Jamie just goes down the stairs and punches the ceiling above him a couple times, left his fist mark, and it's like he's in a rage, you know. It's like his world is coming apart, and it's such a weird kind of a thing, because family problems much, but it's such a jarring thing as you're watching it, because he and his son had just gone on an epic adventure together, and maybe Jamie has a little soft spot for the wine and women, and it's like, this ain't gonna do. The first half hour, 40 minutes of the movie, you're thinking, this Jamie, he's a great man. Look at how he teaches his son, but then this happens, and Spike's saying, "Leave me and my mom alone." It's like he doesn't see him as his father anymore, because he can see he saw his father get down on his knees and start to go to town on this other woman with his mouth. And so it's like, that's what he's dealing with as a kid, a 12-year-old kid. So you're like, anyway, this is pretty much the last time we see Aaron Taylor Johnson in this movie, before the end of it, at the end. And you're like, I just didn't see that from the trailer. I thought he was going to be more of a mainstay, more of a leading character than he is here in what I'm seeing. No, it's Spike. It's his son who is the mainstay in the film. He's the one that's in it the whole time. And Spike does something that is like, it's like he's wise beyond his years, and all of a sudden he's fearless, because he has gone on all of one journey to the mainland. He takes his mother and convinces her, well, actually he doesn't convince her of anything. This actually, now that I think about it, there's some inconsistency here, because she's going in and out of her mind with whatever's her issue is. She's herself, and then she's not. It's like she goes back and forth in time between being a young girl and even calling Spike Dad, thinking that Spike is her dad, how he looks like her dad in his eyes or something, and so she transposes his entire life onto Spike. Some moments when she's going back and forth in time in her mind. It's a very sad thing. But yeah, the way Spike sneaks her out, sneaks the both of them out of the island is kind of peculiar, because he actually starts a fire and convinces the guy in the watchtower, who can never ever leave that watch post, that no, they need every man. They need every man now to carry water. Look, I'll do this and I'll call the siren. And the guy says, all right, but you don't move from here, and you call the siren. It's all a ruse to get his mother snuck out the gate with him so that he can go back to the mainland. Oh, I forgot to mention this part. Where's he going? He's trying to get to this doctor, Dr. Ian Kelson, played by Ralph Fiennes. And this is kind of a peculiar thing, because Jamie had kept this from Spike. I really should have mentioned this earlier, how when they were in that house, when the nighttime came, they saw in the distance something was moving out on the water. And Jamie said probably a patrol, quarantine patrol, maybe the French, a boat out there, which was neat. But another thing they saw out of another window was something burning in the distance a few miles. And Jamie knew what it was, but he wouldn't tell Spike. He said, I've never been there. Spike asked, well, does it always burn? He said, son, I've said I've never been there. I've never been there, so how would I know? It was a neat thing to see how they talk to each other and how it builds on. And when he was talking to that elderly gentleman downstairs before he went up to see his mom and went to sleep, Spike basically had gotten the information from this elderly man. Oh, that might be Ian. It might be Dr. Ian Kelson. He knew who it was. Oh, I never thought he would still be alive after all these years. So yeah, that's basically the one scene that I'm missing, as I'm basically saying the whole movie here. Jamie had told Spike before Spike had basically confronted him in desperation about his mother's failing health, and basically him knowing that Jamie's fooling around on her behind his back, her back, is that this Dr. Ian Kelson was a doctor. Like a real doctor, as they say, way back in the old days, like before all this happened, and before the I almost said the pandemic, not the COVID pandemic, the rage virus outbreak. And Dr. Ian Kelson turns out to be one of the most interesting people in the movie, apart from Spike, who is basically the big star of this movie as far as I'm concerned, played by Alfie Williams. Never seen this kid before, but you can know for a surety you'll see him in movies in the future, because he did great in this. Yeah, he sneaks her out of their island refuge because he thinks that Dr. Ian Kelson can help fix her, save her, figure out what's wrong with his mother, who's obviously sick somehow. It can help save her life. That's all Spike knows. And it's such a beautiful thing, because you know so much about Spike already, that his heart is in the right place, that he is a truly noble character. He loves his mother and is he's literally risking his life and hers also, unfortunately, to try and get her help, to try and save her life. And that's what's, especially as I think about it after the fact, what's particularly beautiful about this story, which I do have some issues with. We'll get to that in a second. And it is very, very interesting. And in the course of their travels together, the few miles into the mainland, the conversation that they have with each other is very interesting. It's like Isla is saying, again, addressing Spike as her father, like, Dad, oh, look, the angel. And you see in the distance, there's this angel sculpture thing, and she talks about all that represented. like, oh, how many hundreds of years have passed this time since we fell, or something like. It was very poetic, it was very pretty, and it was about her conjuring up memories from her past and having conversations with her dad. And Spike, he's kind of soaking it all in, but at the same time, it's like he's struggling in as much as he knows she's loopy, she's out of her mind. He's her son, not her father, and it's like he's got to get her to this doctor as soon as he can. But they end up being chased by some infected into this gas station, and this very colorful character played by Edvin Writing, Eric Sundqvist, this Swedish soldier, I guess is what he's supposed to be, basically saves them by shooting at them with this gas had built up in this gas station. The zombies burn, they get out, and then you realize what a pain in the butt this Eric is, because yeah, technically he saved him, he got him out of a pinch there, as Isla and Spike had to flee for their lives into this old filling station, long abandoned and run down. But it's like he's cussing at him, and he's a jerk. He's like, wait, you don't know what's going to happen next? Where do we go? Could you shut her up? As Isla, she's like having headaches and rocking back and forth on the ground, and Spike saying, no, she can't. She said, what do you mean she can't? I could have saved my bullets instead of saving your life. I just saved your life for nothing. Literally, that's how awful this dude is. And his whole team had been wiped out, chased down and killed one by one by the infected. And then they're in this like subway tunnel underground, and the Alpha, the new Alpha, rips the head off a guy and like has his vertebrae hanging like the Predator. I kid you not, and like a spinal cord, and it was crazy. Eric runs for his life, barely makes it out, and then he encounters them. He ends up carrying Isla on his back, and such a pill, such a freak, you wouldn't want to run into this guy in real life ever, much less a life and death zombie situation, zombie apocalypse. He's like, oh, I don't even want to be here. My friend told me it was a mistake to go into the Navy. I should have been a delivery driver like him. And he's trying to talk to Spike, and Spike doesn't know anything about his phone that he has. And this was one of the funniest parts of the movie, man. I kid you not. Look at this. And there's this young woman who has obvious, like, she looks like maybe some Las Vegas woman of the night with her pouting lips and her fake parts and the lip fillers. And Spike's like, oh, I think I've seen this before. The ladies in my village, they say don't eat the crawfish because when you do, you have an allergic reaction where it puffs up. And people in the theater, these ladies especially up front, were laughing at this part of the movie because it was so much fun. As Eric snatches his phone from Spike, he's like, what are you talking about? She's beautiful. She's gorgeous. Oh, look. 1%. And then his phone went dead. Well, now it's just a rock. He throws the phone away. And Spike has never seen a phone before. He doesn't know what a delivery driver is. He doesn't. It's like culture shock. He doesn't know any of this stuff that Eric's talking about. And it was just some very British humor, or maybe just European humor, as Eric was saying. Scotch on the rocks. They had run ashore basically, or hit some rocks off the shore of Scotland or something, and they were basically stranded themselves. This team of quarantine enforcers, at least they had guns with bullets. Anyway, they're all dead except for Eric, and now he's with Spike and Isla. And this next part of the movie was absolutely insane. Isla is walking ahead of them as they're trying to get to this doctor's place, and they hear something, especially Isla. It's in this old abandoned train, subway train, and not subway, it was above ground. You had seen this pregnant zombie woman, essentially naked, going through contortions and very pregnant, and you're thinking, how are they getting pregnant? Are they actually having sexual intercourse, these these infected zombies? And the obvious answer is, well, yeah, they got their own little world and their own little infected world going on, apparently, with tears and alphas and betas and pregnant women and crawlers and all the rest of it, apparently. And so this was a very interesting part of the movie, and it didn't click with me until I was driving home, the significance of it, and I started to make this recording. The humanity displayed by Isla, again, Jodie Comer, doesn't want to leave this infected woman. She delivers this baby as this woman is got all of her contortions and infected zombie noises, but she's in so much pain being in labor that the compassion that Isla had on her, maybe just as a woman, as a mother, she delivers the baby, and Spike gets in there, and of course he's always supportive of everything his mother's wanting to do, but Eric is like, you're all nuts, you're all insane, shoot it, kill it, we gotta kill this thing. Can this get any more messed up? On the one hand, you're with him. You're like, you know what? If that thing bites you, you're going to be infected too. It's like we gotta kill them all. We gotta incinerate them. So you know exactly where Eric's coming from. There's whole movies that support his mentality, right? It's like, you can't get near these things, much less deliver their baby. How are they getting pregnant? But Isla has the baby in her arms, and she's pleading with Spike and Eric, like, it's not infected, it's clean, the baby's not infected. It's like, how do you know that? Anyway, this was an amazing part of the movie, the more I think about it, because it showed so much about Jodie Comer's character, Isla, and Spike, and taking the baby and delivering it, as it just kind of flopped, like almost, his head looked horrible, out of the pregnant, infected, and they're wrapping it up, but right as all this happens, all of the infectedness, you might say, is coming back into the infected woman, who now isn't in as much pain as she was a few seconds before, and so she lunges out, and that's when Eric shoots her up bad and kills her, and basically, in a way, he saves their life again, but he still won't relent about the baby. He's like, listen, put it down, and he didn't have to do this, but he did. Put it down or I'll kill all three of you. He's backing out of the subway train, and Spike is such a heroic character in this. He's standing in front of his mother. He's like, no, it's not infected. It's going to be all right. Then, I wasn't expecting this, but it's just one of the jump scare. It's the next plot point to get you to the next place. The Alpha reaches down out of nowhere as Eric has backed all the way up to like the front of the, he's backed out of the train actually, into where it was broken in half. You don't see the Alpha, you just see him lift up a very freaked out Eric, and he predators him again, literally head off and spinal cord dangling. Eric is terminated, and it's just like, there's another character of the movie that I thought was going to be around for a little while, but no, he's sure enough dead as a hammer. And you're like, what in the world is this? The Alpha then chases them, Spike and Isla, out of the train, and Spike's yelling, Mom, get off the train, jump off the train. He's shooting arrows into the Alpha, but not doing any headshots, the same problem as he did before. And then the Alpha's right up on him when it's like death-defying big time. It's a tense moment as the Alpha's just staring down Spike, and they're out in the open field again. And then, all of a sudden, right before you think the Alpha's going to kill Spike, he gets hit by like a blow dart thing. And it's morphine. Introduce Dr. Ian Kelson. Yes, Ralph Fiennes enters the movie. And he's bald and glorious and a very interesting character, like you see in the trailer. And he's so down to earth and so humane, unlike the picture that Jamie had painted in Spike's mind about how he's a weirdo who spreads the corpses all around the place and always has a fire burning and he's basically crazy. We saw him that day. He waved at us like it was casual, like it was nothing, and we never went back again. That's all he told Spike. That's all he had told Spike about this Dr. Ian Kelson when he finally admitted that he did know him or know of him. But now, here's Spike and his mother Isla and the fresh baby, not infected. And Dr. Ian Kelson is looking at the baby as Spike is telling him, like, there was an infected, and it had this baby, and the baby's not infected. How? And Dr. Ian Kelson says, it must be, I had wondered about this myself. And he's looking at him and says, the magic of the placenta. I kid you not. That is what he says. It's like the baby in the womb is protected by these natural barriers, these natural protections. But that's one thing for the mother. But as I'm driving home, and before I started to make this recording, the thought coming to my mind, how did the baby get in there to begin with? What about the magic of the semen? The man's semen, sperm, must also not be infected. So it's the magic of the testicular. I don't know. These two things have to work together, folks. But the movie didn't mention that. Just the placenta, just the female reproductive organ side of things, unless the movie wants you to assume that it was a healthy, not infected man who impregnated this infected woman. Or maybe somebody got together and then she became infected. There is that option, David. I suppose so. Okay, so they journey back to where Dr. Ian Kelson actually lives. And the huge mountain, the monument of skulls that you see in the trailer, this is where we get into it in this movie. And when I say get into it, I mean get into it, because this part of the movie, I guess I should have looked down at my phone and really judged how long the movie had been going on for, because unfortunately the soda was going through me and I had to use the restroom, so I missed out on a good 2 minutes of when Dr. Ian Kelson had shared a little bit of Latin with Spike and Isla about, again, these two words that meant, remember, you have to die. And it was very beautiful the way he said it. And then he also later said another variation of it where it said, remember to love. And this monument of bones was from everybody, he said, from infected and not infected alike. He basically has like a cremation hobby going on where he burns the dead, and that was the death, I guess, that Jamie had said they smelled, unlike anything they had ever smelled before when they were near where he lived. And he has basically sculptures, towers of arm bones, and then all of the skulls, and everything's arranged so neatly, like these bones go over here from this part of the body, and these bones go over here from this other part of the body, and it's eerie and disturbing at the same time. As I'm walking out of the movie theater, people were saying, this movie played on pretty much every emotion I've got. And it really did, because part of you wants to be freaked out by watching Dr. Ian take Eric's head, I kid you not, because the Alpha had kept the head of Eric in his hand the whole time he was chasing him. And so now, after he had shot up the Alpha, that Dr. Ian shot up the Alpha with some blow darts of morphine that would cause him to be like incapacitated and in La La Land, standing there nude in an open field. He took the head of Eric from him, and he burns up the head in his cauldron of whatever. And so then it's like the Predator. It's like watching the Predator, only different. As he's scraping off the soft bits of flesh and scalp. I kid you not. It's not bloody gory. It's just mortician-y gory, because it's like he's getting everything off the bone. He hands the skull to Spike. I kid you not. The head of Eric, who he was talking with as they walked together maybe an hour before in the movie. And it's like, I've never seen a movie quite like this, who that carries on with death quite like this particular sequence in this movie is. But it's about to get a whole lot more so, folks. I kid you not. Get ready. He's telling him that it's okay that he accidentally caused a couple of skulls to fall down. It's not sacred in that way, he says, like you can touch it. It's just, these were people. These were people and their lives ended, and now these are just their skulls. But those eye sockets, all the things that they saw, every one of these skulls held a brain and its own set of thoughts, its own life, all these people. And in a way, he's just reminding you of how precious life is, like every single individual. And he's lived here so long by himself, Dr. Ian has. He thought he would just end up never seeing anybody, to eventually just end up dying alone. He's got himself covered with some kind of, I forget what he's called it, some chemical that basically repels the infected. They don't want to be anywhere near the odor of it, and it helps them to survive, obviously, and he keeps his fire burning. It was just such an eerie part of the movie, because he's reminding you of things in his dialogue to Spike about the preciousness of life and living. But this is the part of the movie that I actually had trouble with. Again, if I had known that this was almost the end of the movie, that there would be no epic shoot 'em up, gory, slaughter back the zombies and have hope of maybe taking over the UK again, and like the zombie outbreak is going to be no more. It's going to be a new day, no more infected, or maybe we found a cure, something like that. No, not even some big firefight or some big action sequence at the end. There's nothing like that at the end of this movie. We're almost at the end of the movie, just having met Dr. Ian after all this while. Literally, I would have just held my pee and just suffered if I had known that this is almost the end of the movie. But it just didn't feel like it was. I kid you not. The way the story is told and the way the scenes are playing out on the screen, I thought there was a good half hour left in this movie. There had to have been in my mind, but no, it's almost over. And so I missed out on a couple of minutes of important dialogue by going to use the restroom. I came right back, and what it was Dr. Ian was basically doing his best to ascertain what was wrong with Isla. That's why Spike had got his mother all the way here and faced death to do it. He wanted to help her. Surely this doctor has some kind of a cure, some medicine to help make her better. That's all Spike really knew. And it all came from a good place in his heart and everything. You know, he's doing the right thing. He's like the only person in the story who's like it, apart from maybe Dr. Ian, he's just decent, you know, and trying to do what he understands to be right. This is the part of the movie that it doesn't really upset me, but I'm having trouble. Again, I want you to tell me in the comments what you think about this. It's the manner in which the character of Isla dies. Because they're talking about the kind of pains that she has and how she's out of her mind a little bit, and Dr. Ian says, I would like to ask you permission to examine you under your arms and your breasts and to have you tell me exactly where it hurts and how long you've been suffering in this particular way. And he talks to Spike and he examines her and all this stuff. And basically, he says, there's no way for me to diagnose you in such and such a fashion, and it's almost like medical malpractice, I guess. Well, you're telling her these things, and you're a doctor, but you also can't diagnose her. It's like, but at the same time, it's like, look at the situation. Look at how this world is that they live in. He's just doing the best that he can, and when he tells her, it is like, I believe you have cancer. That's what would explain all of these symptoms and how you've been suffering the particular way, and your tiredness and the pain here, and how your mind it may have gone into other parts of your body and your brain. And so basically she's dying, and Spike is starting to get upset, saying, well, like, how long, when is she going to die? What is this? And that's exactly the moment when I was leaving down the steps. I think he said something like 2 or 3 months or something like that. Then again, I don't know. But yeah, when I came back in, Isla was hugging Spike as Spike was holding the baby, and you just had the feeling, as Dr. Ian was talking about death and how we're all going to have to die. And remember the Latin phrase, remember you have to die. But also, and then he gave this is when he gave the variant of it, remember to love. And if there's one thing that you knew about Spike, is that he loved his mother. And again, the humanity that she showed, and the compassion in not running away from the pregnant, infected, who was in the throes of childbirth, like the most painful part of right when it was happening, and the way she stayed with her and delivered the baby and did what was so right for her to do. It comes flooding home to you. The whole remember to love. It's like they had done that big time. And basically, I guess the part I missed was how she was basically deciding to not suffer in this place of privation and suffering, and no medicine, and you're just going to linger on for a little while. And so, I kid you not, the music is getting soft, and it's beautiful as you know what? I think I'm missing something. I remember Dr. Ian blew a dart first. Did he blow a dart into Spike so Spike would go a little limp in his mind and be more malleable to what was going on? Because basically what's going on is it's basically euthanasia, and this is what I'm struggling with in this movie. And you know what? I had actually looked up this very thing. I'm going to see if I can't find that article. Hopefully. You know what? Let me read this. I'm going to look. 28 years later, ending explained what happened to Isla. I'm going to read some stuff here. Jodie Comer's Isla is one of the most significant characters in the recently released film 28 Years Later. She is Spike's mother and Jamie's wife. However, outside of her relationship with these individuals, she is also one of the strongest soldiers in the fight against the infected and the rage virus at the center of the film's narrative. However, Isla also grapples with a mysterious illness that she has been dealing with since the beginning of the film. As the story of 28 Years Later progresses, her condition worsens. After consulting Dr. Ian Kelson, she discovers that she has terminal cancer. Faced with the fear of relentless suffering from her condition, she ultimately decides to choose euthanasia, leading to her death. Okay, so that is what happened. I saw that's what happened. Spread all over her body and her brain, rendering it no longer treatable. Realizing the suffering she would have to endure and the effect it would have on Spike, Isla decides to choose euthanasia. To prevent Spike from stopping her from taking this step, Isla allows Kelson to drug him before saying her goodbyes. Okay, so that did happen. I suspected that that's what that first blow dart thing was about. I was only just coming back into the theater, though. She follows Kelson into the darkness, following which he returns with a skull, a new addition to his Memento Mori tower. In a heart-wrenching moment from the film, Kelson lets Spike pick the location of his mother's skull. He climbs to the top of this structure and places her skull in a position that is visible to all, highlighting her importance in his life. Okay. Now, all of that was like so beautifully done and everything. I give him that. Something that bothers me about this whole thing, though, is, well, you know what? Let me say this from just a little bit of personal recent experience. My own family grappled with some of this stuff a little while ago when my Uncle Junior had his kidneys just die on him as a result of something, a surgery, a previous surgery, basically. And for 2.5, 3 months, he was basically kept on life support by machines. And it got to the point where he basically made the decision to go on hospice, and that's where they basically keep you, well, you know what hospice is. And so many people have to go through this stuff. There's just something about this story, though, and the decision to fully take your life into your own hands, that it just bothers me. And as much as who knows how long she might have lived, yes, she would have suffered, and Spike likely would have objected to the whole thing, but it's like these two adults have already made up the decision when Isla, I guess, had made the decision. It's like, what did I just watch? What exactly? And I'm not saying they're trying to blur the lines or anything, because look at this world that they live in. There is no possible treatment. There's going to be suffering before she finally succumbs to the cancer that's killing her. But at the same time, it's like, is she in her right mind? We know from what we've seen so far, sometimes she absolutely is not. And so who made this decision? You know, that's the thing. It's bad enough to make the decision anyway, but it's like, was she in her right mind, you know? And again, it's Predator all over again times 10. When Dr. Kelson, you see the same overhead view of the fire raging in this furnace thing, and it's like, what did he just lay her in there? Where's all the rest of her bones? He brings back that skull to a drugged out Spike. It's like there's just too many things going on there. You wouldn't be able to compute the emotions in such a short period of time. And it's so beautifully done with the embers of the fire sparking up and the beautiful sun rising. It's like there's a little bit of hope in your heart. The suffering is over, and your mother had said she loves you, take care of the child. And it was, you can't help but be carried away a little bit as you're watching these movies, because it's spectacular, literally. The spectacle is choreographed, and it's meant to be so moving. And yet I'm walking out of there tonight thinking, I don't know if this is entirely above board and the right thing, folks, because it's like my Uncle Junior, we kept going back and forth with him. Well, not me, his brothers and sisters, my mother and my aunts and uncles, helping him through what was the last parts of his life a few months back. Did he understand what was being said? Were some of the medications messing with him? We knew they were to a degree. It's like, so we had to keep going back and really confirming things and clarifying things, like, you know, if you make the decision to go on hospice, then that'll be the end eventually, and that they don't just let you back into a hospital room after you've done that. I'm sure they would if you absolutely did that, or you thought you were misled or mistaken, or all the tragic things that happen in this end of life scenario, you know. But it's like, Isla was such a beautiful character, you know. She loved her son. You have the impression that she loved her husband before she fell down in her health, and her husband failed to love her the way he should have, in constancy and faithfulness and fidelity and all that. It's just when she delivered that baby, it's like, this is who she is. She's a good person, decent. And the way that she died, and again, I keep saying it, it's Predator. Dr. Ian is Predator. He's got to polish off these skulls, and he tells Spike, you find a place. He had given Spike the honorarium, I guess, of finding a place for Eric's skull, and now he's finding a place of prominence for his mother, and he climbs all the way to the top of the monument, and it's this beautiful thing, and you're thinking, I could understand all this except for the euthanasia part. It's like there's something about this that just is troubling me. But like I said, this is the ending of the movie. I didn't even realize it. The next scene, and this is kind of abrupt, this was almost, I was surprised how choppy this part of the movie seemed compared to how beautiful and how good a transition everything before it had. After the death of Isla, you see Dr. Ian and Spike carrying the baby in his arms, running for their lives from the Alpha again. And I guess Dr. Ian didn't have his morphine blow darts on him that he says he uses on the Alpha to make him sleepy, and he tries to keep his distance from the big man, as they called him earlier, or keep his distance from him. I don't know if you called him the big man or not, but there's basically an escape cage in the ground. But you're thinking Dr. Ian has had it, because this Alpha does not give up. He's beating and banging and stomping on the grating in the ground where this cellar thing is, and he gets an arm all the way in there and grabs Dr. Ian. I kid you not, until Spike finally finds one of the morphine darts and just gouges one of them, jabs one of them right in the arm of the Alpha, so that he goes all limp, and you can actually hear him snoring and sleeping with his arms dangling into the cage while these two are underground. You see the sunlight pouring in on them, and for that to go from that sequence of the funeral, as such as it was, not really a funeral pyre, but the memoriam thing, into that scene just seemed kind of abrupt. It was kind of jarring. And then Dr. Ian looking over at Spike and saying, maybe it's time you and the baby went home. And I'm thinking, where else would they be going? But the film ends with Spike taking the baby and leaving it in a basket outside the gate of their island refuge, outside of the walls, the big gates that open and close only when somebody's coming in or going out, because they have to keep watch 24/7 for the infected. And it's just such a thing, man. It's not really a downbeat ending, but I guess maybe I was expecting more for such a movie as this, because what Spike does is he wrote a letter and he left it with the baby, and this is the last time we see Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. We see Jamie reading the letter and getting super upset. He's super angry because he's like, and you don't entirely know what he's angry about, except that he really flew into a rage and ran out the gates and into the water through the tide, like he's going to run across the water to the mainland. in a rage. It's like he's out of his mind. He's beside himself. And these are the last scenes we see of Jamie, as he's kind of out of his mind, not knowing what he wants to do, because he's got nothing on him but his clothes. He's made no provision. He doesn't have any of his bow and arrow with him. He's upset. That's the last scene we see. He's in a rage, and he's ran off, just screaming in the water, screaming at the world, screaming at the sky, because what set him off was the letter that Spike had written, where Spike had said, "Don't come for me. I'll come home when I'm able." It's like he's sorting some things. It's basically I gotta go find myself letter. I gotta go sort out some things, and basically that's the sentiment that you're left with as far as Spike. It's like he doesn't want to go back home to where he lived, where he was protected. He doesn't want to go home and see his dad just yet after all that. And he said, "Please take care of this baby. Its mother was infected, but it's not." And then he said, "Her name is Isla." And when Jamie read that, I guess he understood that his wife was dead and that his son was now basically gone from his life. Whichever one of these things set him off the most, you don't know, and it's left open for interpretation as to why he's mad at the world. Maybe he's mad at himself as he's running into the ocean and screaming. And that's the last we see of anybody on the peaceful island of non-infected people. And the movie ends with Spike being on the run after he successfully headshots one of the zombies. He's got 2, 3, 4 more running after him, after he was just kind of cooking up a fish. He had gone fishing and he was eating. He's living off the land where the infected live, and he ends up being overwhelmed. And there's literally a caved-in road, like a big boulders and rocks blocking where a road used to be, like maybe a tunnel caved in or something. And I kid you not, Remick from Sinners shows up, and guess who he is? He is the grown-up version of the little boy, Jimmy, from the whacked-out Catholic priest at the beginning of this movie. I don't know if he's Catholic or not. He just had the cross around his neck, and now Jimmy has it around his neck. And it's basically a sequel teaser, in as much as this is nuts. These guys actually have fun. You know what? He's talking to him, and it's so British. It is so derivative, and it's like something out of the old tales. Like, you look like you might need some help there. We'd be glad to help you if you're willing to take our help. That kind of a thing. Oh, sure, have at it. Because the zombies are almost on Spike as they all of a sudden say, hold, because they're going Braveheart on him. Hold. And then Remick, I'm calling him Remick, his name's Jimmy, he says, "Effing now." And they have poles and different blunt objects that they use to hit the infected and bash the infected and wrap them up and spin the head off the infected. I kid you not. They're having fun. All of these Gaelic-looking, blonde-headed, look like, Spinal Tap or something, like a half a dozen or so, like a big gang of these guys with Jimmy as their leader. And this is how the movie ends. It's basically a teaser to a sequel, where Jimmy looks at young Spike and he says, "Let's be pals." It was like so Spike is gonna be with this gang of, I forget what they even called themselves, or if he did call themselves something. I think they did, but yeah, it had a very British English tale vibe to it at the end. That's the that's the feel I got from it, and that's the end of the film. And of course, as the dramatic titles and the great music starts up and the credits start rolling, you see it intermixed with little flashes of half-naked zombie, long-haired, bloody face horror out in the fields. And that was 28 years later. I enjoyed the film. It was very worth it, if only for its beautiful cinematography and the poem and the story of Spike and how he's being brought up in this cursed world instead of the rest of the world that wasn't overrun by infected rage virus zombie monsters. I'm still having trouble with the way Isla died, because even though it was her decision, was it? Was it her decision? I'm just saying. Anyways, I'm glad I caught this flick early on. It was great looking, great sounding. I enjoyed myself at the movies. Santikos, the Grand Theater, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And I've got to see 28 Days Later. One of these days I might watch it on the road when I get bored enough in the truck here in a few weeks or months or whenever I can. There's so many movies that that I've failed to see that I got to see whenever I can. So yeah, I've only talked about this movie, oh my goodness, almost an hour and 23 minutes. That is insane. I didn't mean to go on this long, folks. But if you listen to me all the way through, I do appreciate it. It's a lot more attention than I deserve. Oh, one more thing that I just remembered. Spike and Jamie had come across in that house an upside down corpse. It's like he wasn't infected. Well, it wasn't a corpse. It was a man upside down hanging. And they were talking to each other, and Jamie said it's like this might have been a punishment. He's like he's never really seen this, but it doesn't surprise him because horrible things happen in the cursed, infected world and all that. And it's like he makes Spike shoot him in the head, and you understand why he is. He's like, you've got to be able to do it. You've got to be able to kill. You've got to be able to react. You've got to be able to survive, son. So he makes him do it and all that. But it's like, it occurred to me at the very end that obviously Jimmy and his blonde-headed gang of infected killers had done that, because the very last thing that you see before him saying, you know what, let's be pals, and you're like, okay, Spike's going to be with these guys now, they hang up a zombie by his feet the same way that that guy in that house that they discovered was hung up by his feet. And Jamie's there speculating like he wasn't infected when he was hung up, but he is now. And then he's trying to make Spike understand how things are. He's like his mind is gone. He's one of the infected now. No mind, no soul. That's what Jamie said. And so right about the time the monster has wiggled himself free and fallen, and the situation has got so tense, then Jamie saying, son, kill him, for crying out loud. Actually, he says some curse words, but Spike finally releases the arrow, and there's so many great headshot the visuals in this movie of arrows, no less. The only person who had a gun was Eric, and in the end he didn't use it to effect. So yeah, that's where we're at now. I'm pretty sure that Spike is with a gang of people who hang up people who are not infected until they become infected, when the infected come along and munch on them a little bit. So yeah, not a good place to be there, Spike. But I guess we'll find out if they make a sequel. We'll see what happens. Thanks for listening to me, folks. Take care.